and welcome back.
How are we getting on? So today we're joined by a lad who's probably done everything. If ever there was a lad who did everything, it was him. Andrew Drury. So you may know him from Dark Tourist, but I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, Dark Tourist, yeah. Kind of that, I mean, Dark Tourist kind of defined my travel. But to be honest, the Dark Tourist episode I did was a bit wussy, really, to what I do. I mean, it was a sad, sad thing, and I found it a really emotional journey. But my life's not kind of defined by dark. I mean, most of my trips are generally involve war. Kazakhstan was a bit different. Funny enough, filming Dark Tourist, it was going to be in the Donbass because that was the area I wanted to go. I wanted to take David into a place that would actually he'd shit himself in. Because I think he did some incredible stuff in that show, and the vampires and places he went and with the dead and that, but I wanted actually to scare the arse off of him, because I think he was frightened of that, but I think if I'd taken him to the Donbass, he would have, Ukraine, that area where you've got the war in Donbass region, and that's the original plan, but Netflix don't think we're happy to get shot at, so David's insurance was too high, so Kazakhstan was kind of the second. So that's the truth about it. I mean, I found that more harrowing, funny enough, than wars. I felt seeing children suffering. You probably saw me in tears. I mean, which is, for me, I was still quite shocked by it now. I mean, I've seen people shot and killed on the front line. I've seen the mass battles, and people say, does anything haunt you? Do they haunt as images of people dead or suicide attack? Or when I've seen someone, I don't like them saying, I don't know how adult this podcast is, but seeing somebody blow themselves up under a suicide attack and see what's left of that. Those images don't ever stay with me, but the images of children dying in a orphanage will always stay with me. They haunt me now. Yeah. So it's funny, isn't it? I mean, you'd have thought it'd be the other way around, but the innocent is always the victim. I found in all the travels.
Yeah, I suppose with the rest of them, they all had a choice in getting there. But with the kids, they're so young, they're so innocent. And it was nothing to do with their fault. It was just the fault of others. Yeah,
if you're gonna drop a atomic bomb close to a city, I'm sure the Russians never knew that was going to happen. I'm sure they didn't think that the fallout would affect humans. I'm sure that wasn't part of their testing and their thoughts, but they still did it. So you can read between whatever you want. But it was a great trip. I mean, David's a real cool guy. He really is. He's a good. I mean, I've been with German presenters, I've been with Danish presenters. He is the biz. And what you see with David, there's nothing hidden. He is. People say, does he act on camera? Some people, they say they didn't like him or didn't like his way of presenting. But he's a shit-hole guy. He's brilliant. It was great to be with. He followed my trip with me, didn't complain. But he didn't have as good hair products as me. His hair products were utter shit. His hair is a mess. I did tell him out on a few occasions, sort your fucking hair out, man.
Yeah. So I was going to ask how you got to Kazakhstan, but obviously that's decided. But how did you even get in contact with him? For the show?
Listen, mate, if you search on the internet, he wanted different for his show. He wanted sort of different characters. He did loads of different things and shit. And I suppose if you look for a dark tourist or a tourist of this degree, you'll search. And if you wanted to find me, you'd find me. You'd probably done research for this podcast. And you'd see I've done loads of places. And he wanted to be taken out of his comfort zone. So that was my job. And hopefully I did achieve it because I nucleared the arse out of us.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one hell of an episode.
Yeah.
I said it's one hell of a trip. Like, I'd never think of going to Kazakhstan, ninth biggest country in the world, but there you were, swimming in nuclear wastewater.
Good on your research, ninth country. I ain't got a clue. Just no, don't do research like that. But yeah, the nuclear water, I didn't want to do that. I got totally pissed out of my head. So to actually do that, I had to drink. I didn't really want to go in there. It wasn't because the nuclear waste, it was because the water was cold. And the fish there were just...
In the documentary, he says that you were convincing them to get in.
Yeah, I got pissed. I don't drink too much. Well, at all, really. I did almost a bottle of vodka. Funny, but, off camera, we were just swigging it back. I mean, David's a really good swimmer, so he's looking forward to getting in. But I was not happy at all about it because it was quite cold and shitty. And they told us that as long as you didn't go down a metre, you wouldn't catch anything. But I was kind of looking at my body. My body's kind of longer than a metre. I might well have at least dipped my toes in the radiation. And there was also rumours that two-headed fish were being dragged out of the water and they were eating it. I asked the question, but we had this Russian guy that was kind of, I don't know, a tour leader, and he was talking out of bollocks and said that, you know, the water wasn't radioactive, which is totally shit, because we had the Geiger count, it was going off the scale. It was worse than the Japanese episode, actually. That was the highest readings of radiation. I mean, I was first tourist in Chernobyl as well, as you know, just to let you know. I went to Chernobyl before anybody made it popular in a TV series. I went about 15 years ago when it really was nuclear. So I must have some sort of shield, I should imagine, by now. That's why COVID's not touching me. Fuck COVID.
Yeah,
COVID immunity to it.
COVID's probably put a stop to your stuff so far.
Sorry?
I say COVID's put a stop to your trips this year.
No, I'm filming this film which the Americans have funded. It's it's called Danger Zone. At the moment, that's the working title, and it premieres, I think, California around about June, July. So I'm off to Somalia in 10 days. I'm not back off to Mogadishu because we've got to get this film done. So I don't know. And the Somalians say they've got no COVID at all, which obviously is a lie, which is total bullshit, but because they don't record it.
Yeah. I was telling Thomas, one of the places in the Stands episode, Turkmenistan, it's one of the only countries in the world that didn't get COVID. That's what I say.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, if you look up countries with zero, it's the only one that's there.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I'm sure he's telling the truth. He rides a gold horse, and I'm sure he's telling the truth and likes to shoot things in a hobby. So, yeah, I'm sure he's right.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got no. And I think North Korea's only had 2.
I think they're COVID-free at the moment.
Are they?
Yeah, I heard that.
He announced it. He came back from the dead for a couple of minutes to say that they're completely COVID-free, because he's died once or twice this year already, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's died twice.
That place, it was a bull. That place, when I was in North Korea, going back about sort of 10, once again, before that was popular, kind of, I'm not saying I did it for everybody else, but these particular ones I did, and that was a great trip, that was, North Korea. That's an unbelievable place to visit.
Well, tell us about it, man.
Well, I tried it. Funny enough, we got there at middle of the night, and they kind of go for a curfew period, so everybody kind of goes back to their houses, no street lights, no shops, no nothing. And we landed, and our mobile phones and everything else got taken off of us, but I had my iPad, because they didn't understand what an iPad was. So I tried to really ruin. There was a young girl there that she hadn't even heard of the Beatles. She was about 18, 19, and she was an escort. So we kind of fucked about with them and tried to escape quite a few times from the hotel. So I tried to indoctor her in a bit of Beyonce that my wife, I say my wife, I don't know, it was mine, but there's Beyonce, and she was in shock how decadent the West is. But we got come off Pyongyang, got taken to an island where this golf course is on, and obviously they said the imperial leader had scored 9 hole-in-ones on the 9-hole course. They're all convinced. And this hotel is on the island we all get ushered to. 13, and that's it, it's about 15 floors, and you've got a chaperone everywhere you go. So we went into the lift with our 2 chaperones, and our floor was the 15th, and there was a missing floor which was 13. It went 12, 14, 15. So the 13th floor is listening zone. You probably heard this before. You go in the rooms and it's bugged. We found all these 1970s bugs in the room, so we spent 4 or 5 days fucking with their head. Pretending we're going to leave, going back to the room, pretend we're going to leave, go back to the room, to try and fuck them out, trying to escape. But we thought that we were probably going to get ourselves into a bit of trouble, so stop that. But the whole trip was unbelievable, you know, like roller coasters. You wouldn't believe North Korea has got a roller coaster, would you? It's made out of wood. It's made out of wood, and it's fucking scary because all the tracks part when you cross it, but they take you to kind of these areas. And in Pyongyang, they have barbecues in the forest, hidden from the general public. So people are trying to escape the system. The shittest magic show on earth is there. A magician makes a helicopter disappear with rope. and it's so bad you can see the road. Anyway, it doesn't sound like a great story, but that's kind of North Korea.
Yeah. You've heard some horrible stories of tourists being there and they take like a poster or something.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then-
And, I actually did an interview for ABC News about Otto Warmbier. He was the guy that obviously supposed to got beaten up when he got home. He stayed in the same hotel as us. So I don't believe it. I think it's a conspiracy. So if anybody's listening to this, don't believe the shit you hear. Because I stole loads of stuff. I actually stole more, and I don't steal in my life, but I stole so much from North Korea because it's good to have memorabilia. And I'd have been all over the cameras like Otto was. So I think it's a load of bollocks. I think there's more to that story than meets the eye. And I said that to ABC News. I just think it's shit. I don't think it. I think he was either used by the North Koreans as a hostage to the Americans, or something else happened between Pyongyang and the States. Because people are nicking, tourists there all the time nicking stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I hope Supreme Leader ain't listening right now.
Oh, fuck him.
Oh no, he's a big
He's
fan
probably-
of the
he's probably
podcast.
dead, though.
I wouldn't say that, man.
No,
Well, you want
big
to
fan.
podcast him?
Oh no, he's a big fan of it. Like he tells us he
I'm
watches
sure
it the whole
he
time.
is.
Oh God.
Actually,
I
you
reckon he's a
look
Joe
bit
Rogan
like him.
man.
Actually, I think there's a little bit of
Oh my God.
Imperial leader in you.
Good God. No, that guy is mental. I don't even know if he's alive. They've been saying he's been dead since January, but then he's also like appearing back every now and then and dies again.
You can go and see his grandfather. He's been dead a long time. He's out in state. He looks like plastic. You go and look him, find him if you want. So that's one of the day out is to go and look at his grandfather's dead body. It was a great day out. This wax plastic image. So they never die
Kinda
anyway.
weird.
Yeah, they are weird.
Like they're viewed as like godlike there, aren't they?
Yeah. There was a German reporter when we were there, was just locked up. So there was, a bit of shit going on because he accidentally, because Germans like smoking cigars and cigarettes, as we all know, it's a German hobby. He accidentally inflicted cigarette ash or cigar ash on the imperial leader's head. The cleaners found it and reported him, and he ended up getting locked up because he just had put cigarette ash on the imperial leader's head. That's a true story from a German journalist
Christ.
when we were
Poor
there.
lad.
Jesus, man.
Yeah, he got out.
Oh
Yeah.
Well, you think it's a bit like The Dictator. Remember when it's just like the movie The Dictator?
It's exactly like that.
Yeah.
But there was no. I don't understand. People say it's so scary going there. Do you know? I've never felt anywhere safe in my life. I mean, going from there, I think we were in the Taliban. Our trip before that was a Taliban training camp in Pakistan. So I'm going there thinking, and going to the other one too, and kind of referring back to both of them. I mean, North Korea was like going to Marbella.
Yeah. No offense, but like you saying it made you feel safe means nothing to me. The shit you've done.
My degree of
yeah, that made me feel safe.
Yeah, my degree of safe is not the same as anybody else's. I mean, and people said that all the time. But I mean, you could go to North Korea, you'd be all right. It's most of the stuff's in your head in places like that, but in Iraq, it's not. I mean, I've been back from Iraq about 9 months. So I've been there 3 times, 4 times, and every time I've been there, I've been close to danger. So I've been shot at, been taken hostage. I've met with ISIS brides. Been in loads of shit. It's an emotional place.
Some of your pictures from like Somalia, Iraq, wherever, they look hilarious because you just look like a standard tourist. But then in the background, there's 2 lads with AKs. There's lad. I don't know. It looks crazy.
Well, most people say, why'd you do it? And I can tell you a reason. The ISIS attack. If I can take you to that and how that happened, it was in Kirkuk. I mean, I was searching front lines with the Peshmerga 2 days before that, and there was nothing happening. So I wasn't disappointed because getting there, because I could see ISIS flags, I could see in the distance. I was experienced being on the front line with the guys, but it was a bit disappointing because I suppose you've gone that far, you want to see something happen. I mean, I don't want to die because I like my life. None of this is about dying. I haven't got a death wish, and I'm not stupid because my fixers. I can't be stupid because CNN, ABC News contact me for fixers TV companies to ask me for my fixes because I know what shit I'm doing. I take risks, but they're educated risks because I know what's happening. I researched the area 3 or 4 days before, so I know what shit's going on. But this day I didn't. I was kind of ducked down in Kirkuk. Was at this time ISIS had taken over Kirkuk. Do you know Kirkuk, where it is in the world? I don't know if you study Iraq. Well,
No, not really.
Well, Kirkuk was a large area in Iraq which was controlled during the war by the Americans, took control and policed it badly. That was where I think pretty much the Americans lost more of their troops in Kirkuk than anywhere. But they left it with Iraqi forces that aren't that great because they haven't been paid for one. They sell their guns. Anyway, that's another story. So driving through Kirkuk, trying to find a front line, isn't it? It's not like you go to find a restaurant or something. I'm actually trying to find and got lost in Kirkuk. And if I'd been found in Kirkuk, it's a large Iraqi city, then I'd have been taken hostage. I was in ISIS control, so we were deep down the back of the car trying to hide. We got lost, and my driver and fixer was asking for directions. It's not a place when I ask for directions. Oh, by the way, I'm lost. Do you know where the front line is? How does that conversation go? I don't speak the language, so I presume that's what he was saying. And we found, lucky enough, a Turkmen TV. Turkmen are kind of descendants of Turkish, as you can see, Turkmen descendant, and they're a tribe within Iraq, and they have their own TV. So we found a news crew, and the news crew said there was a front line happening now. Well, you could hear it. You could hear mortar fire. So we followed him, and we got access because they thought we were part of the media. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been allowed there. There's no way they let myself get closer. We're just lucky. And as I entered, it's a long road full of tanks, and gunfire and mortar fire were happening. So it's the closest I got. I knew it was real. My heart was pounding, although, strangely enough, when you get into that area, you're not scared. Well, I wasn't, and perhaps you wouldn't be, because I think your body takes over, and I knew something was going to happen. And when I entered the area, which is the furthest point of the front line, and we're about 1,000 meters from the ISIS, so it was that close. And as I got there, there'd been a suicide attack. So a guy was on a JCB where he blew himself up. And I got out of our vehicle with Turkmen TV. They gave us body armor, because I never wear body armor, but he said, you've got to wear it here because you could get killed. And the first thing I saw, and as I say, I don't like saying it because we're on a podcast, and
it's not a kid show.
Oh God! No.
In that case,
we
got out of the car.
0% in that group.
So I got out of the car and then was surrounded by the soldiers, because obviously they're as inquisitive about me as I am about them. Because what's this stupid fucking English guy come to an active front line where they've just had a chemical attack and a suicide attack? The first thing I saw was the head of the guy that blew himself up was on the ramparts as a warning. And we're standing talking, and the guy next to me has kicked this thing, looks like a ball. It was the guy's stomach. So you're talking, that's what I'm saying, the graphicness of the front line, and it's important to say that because you become aware that you are now in a place maybe that you've been seeking for most of your traveling time to experience, but then you're there going, fuck me, I've got kids at home. So at that point, your heart has pounded and you start thinking about what you shouldn't do. And then the gunfire starts again and you start to calm down and you go into a different, and I imagine soldiers do that when it happens, they forget about, and their survival instincts come rather than any memories. But out of that, before the actual major attack happened, when I reached there, I got chance, and this is quite an important statement. This is the stories like being back. I started speaking to the soldiers, and I went into a sniper pit of this Abbas militia, and that's what they were called. And I spent 2-3 hours in this hole, this sniper, and he was telling me his story. And this is what people don't hear back at home. They hear about our soldiers. This guy was looking through the sight of his sniper rifle at his house, and he was looking, and his children and his wife were being held by ISIS, raped, perhaps murdered and killed. And he had to look at that every day through a sniper rifle. So these are the stories. And he was telling me he was hoping his children were killed and his wife might be killed so they wouldn't be raped or abused. So when the seriousness of people say, I mean, I have a laugh and joke about what I do, but that's the seriousness of war, and that's the seriousness of what you do. And to be able to tell, this guy said, when you go back and you tell my story, and I have several times, because this story is important. And we sometimes, when we see people in the UK or foreign people walking the streets, you go, oh, fuck off home. But believe me, you wouldn't want to be in their home. You really wouldn't. So I spent time with him, and it was quite an emotional time, because I've got kids. And he wasn't a soldier, he was a school teacher. That was his job back at home. Oh. And so he's gone from school teacher, he's been driven out by ISIS. No one gives a fuck. I did, and I do now, because I went back to find him a couple of years later. So that's another story. So I spent time in Sniper Pit, and there was a car between no man's land. ISIS had rigged up with bombs, and the Abbas, which were on the side of the Iraqis, and I went to try and detonate it. Because they thought they're going to come back dark at night, drive the car, suicide bomb, and blow the front line back up, which is a massive, proper militarized front line. So that whilst they were there, ISIS saw them, and they started shooting them, and one of the guys got shot and dragged back. And then the big attack happened. I think our lot mowed down about 15, 20 of them. So that's the reality of war. Yeah. But it's funny enough, because the feelings of that time is, and seeing death and destruction, although it was the first time I saw it, didn't really daunt me. It felt excited, and I come back and I try and question that now, why I felt that way. I think it's the adrenaline, because I didn't sleep for 3 or 4 days, and my wife didn't speak to me for about 3 or 4 weeks. I was editing the footage because the story had got bought already, because as soon as I had back, I was on most news channels, because I suppose you're going to see some prick goes to front line from England. It's the same old story. But like I say, when they say to me wife and children, I say, this guy that I was with deserves this story to come out, and so do the other people. And I left there, and I've left there, and I forget about the death, apart from the story I'm telling you, but what I do remember is this guy in the sniper hole looking for his kids and looking for his family. I don't know if he ever found the family, because I went back to the village. But ironically, out of that militia, I've got this picture, I think at least, well, you'll see this in the film, about 3 or 4 of them were killed that I spent time with. So that's the reality of war. So it can't be glamorized. But I always believe, when they ask me, you've got Ross Twat Kemp, he goes out there and doesn't do it for real on a scripted stuff. He don't bring these stories back. He just brings Ross Kemp, gets shot at. And that fucks me off. Because his story is more important than mine. My story is just a guy that does these things.
People like you make me realize how soft everyone's gotten.
Well, I'll tell you another story in Mosul. You've heard of Mosul in Iraq. Mosul was the most largest city. Mosul, you saw on the news in Iraq. It's massive. Anybody who listens to this podcast will know Mosul. Mosul, where it was a stronghold of ISIS, and the ISIS leader was held in Mosul. It's a massive bit. You've got to know Baghdad. Mosul's like that, just outside. And I went in there, and it was where there was street-to-street fighting like never before. Like the Iraqi forces went in to fight ISIS. It was street for street. And if you look on, I don't know if I've ever produced a video, and I probably have. I might even send it to you, because it'll give you a good idea. And when you go into, where do you live in Ireland?
Just in the middle.
Awfully.
Is there many people is there many people where you live? Probably not. It's about 3 people live in Ireland, isn't there?
About that, yeah.
We're all related though, so it's all right.
That's me, Thomas, and there's a lad. We don't even talk to him.
No, he's a dickhead.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's this town, it's probably with about 1.5 million people. And I would tell you, so it's a big place.
Yeah.
And this part of the town where I went was ISIS were pushing and killing people from street to street, didn't matter. And I was outside videoing, and if you look at a broken down building, and what you see in there is like a doll. This is getting sad, and it shouldn't be sad. I mean, your podcast, but if you do podcasts, it's all forms, isn't it? You want people. When you look at this building and you see this doll hanging out of a wall with a cot, and you're standing on this mound of stuff, and a local comes over to you and says, that mound you're standing on, only yesterday, and this was only last year, a year and a half after conflicts, they dug 4 bodies, 2 children. So and no one cares about this story. You come back here and they go, well, why were you going on holiday with your kids? And you try and explain. And then this story went on, and I met this family, two mother, father, 4 children. All of them had bullet wounds up their back and in their face because they were running across the crossfire between ISIS from house to house, trying to avoid getting killed.
Sorry, I'll be back
Is
in
that
like
your
a
mum?
minute. Yes.
She called you for tea.
Hi, Thomas's mom. Anyway,
Hi, Thomas's mum.
keep going there.
So yeah, so you've got those sort of stories. These kids were running from house to house, from fire to fire. So my trip started as a bit of a thrill seek, but these stories to bring back are kind of what I do it for. Like the man who was seen by his graveyard holding the hand. This is a story by one of my fixers. I won't get so morbid. I'll just tell you, it's important, like getting a story out. And he was seen by my friend who was the fixer. He was digging a hole, burying a grave for his. This is the truth of the story. And he was burying his daughter, and he was holding the hand of his son. He was seen next day burying another grave, and he was burying his son. So that's war. So, and it's important. I mean, I won't glamorize it or give you the shit stories anymore, but that's kind of why I do it. To bring, in the early days, it was more about a bit of ego with mates down a pub. Look what I've fucking done. Look at me, big hero. But now it's not. It's to kind of tell the story. Quite harrowing, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, we're so spoiled. We're just so spoiled. And then there's this stuff going on in the world. And then we're all concerned about our feelings.
Well, we are. And if you look, and I said to you, do you know where Kirkuk and Mosul is? And you don't. And probably in Mosul, and why would you? Mosul probably had 100,000 people killed. And no one really even know where it is on the map. And we think about our soldiers, maybe, which is rightly so, because, I mean, military forces are good. You lose about, I don't know, a couple of 100, 250, 300 soldiers, maybe 500 got killed in the conflict. Over 1 million Iraqis got killed. And I'm not on anyone's side apart from, I mean, I'm obviously on our own, but the fact of the matter is this happens, they're humans.
Mm-hmm.
But they go, you back, your mum let you have your tea, you've done now, have you? You should have brought her in. Should let her ask her a question. It'd be cool.
Yeah. That was a funny conversation I had earlier trying to explain to my mum what you do.
Who did you try to explain that to?
I tried to explain it to my mum. She's like, but like, why? That's basically her response, like, why?
Do you know what? You should get your mum up here to ask that question, because I tell you what, the answer why is there isn't an answer, because people right throughout the ages have been doing shitty, foolish things, haven't they? Like, I don't know, jumping off the end of the mountain or climbing a mountain and things like that. You need people and adventurers. That's what I am, as an adventurer. And my story, would you be having anybody on podcast that just watch telly? But mind you, they do that. They've got that fucking TV program. People get video watching telly, don't they?
Gogglebox.
You know, yeah, Gogglebox. Well, what shit idea that is, isn't it? But if you think about having someone on a podcast, you wouldn't be asking me about Joe Blogs, would you? You wouldn't have these sort of things happen in your life.
I have to hear you first. I have to do a bit of research, find out what you've done, and go from there. And your story, like, it's unreal. It's honestly unreal.
Those sort of stories, kind of that, you know, that's just brief. I mean, my stuff, it goes back 25 odd years of doing sort of stupid trips, and like the KKK. And that's because you're Irish. That's your fault. I get bored with television. It's a bag of old shit in it, apart from Dark Tourist and this film that you'll see out soon that I've made. The rest of it shit. But anyway, I was listening to a radio show in Ireland. This is how the KKK come out, and they're a bunch of fucking nutters. But I listened to this guy called Reverend Travis Pearce on an Irish radio station late at night on DAB radio, and I heard he was coming on. I don't know how, because you Irish are fantastic, because you don't give a shit. You ask any question, and I love you lot, because you don't care how you ask it neither. And this guy was giving him a hard time, but I kind of wanted to finish off what he was doing. So Reverend Travis Pearce, he lives in a place called Compton in Georgia. Not Compton, you would know, not in Compton, that kind of stupid kind of music film. It's another Compton. And I want to track him down. So I wrote him an email saying I was a kind of white supremacist and kind of building myself a profile up. He's a fucking knob,
Yeah.
because you've only got to go on social media and you can find that most of my mates are kind of Somalian or Iraqis or
Yeah,
Afghanis.
it's obviously not true. Like you
Yeah.
knew you had to give them this spiel to get them
Yeah.
to talk to you.
He's
I get you.
thick as shit though, totally thick. But anyway, so you might, if you look on YouTube, you can find me ringing this whilst I'm in Georgia trying to get the interview because I thought he was going to let me down. So we got into the States, but first, you've seen the film Deliverance?
I have not.
I think I've seen Deliverance.
It's the Banjo Boy. You've got
Let me look it up.
Squill Piggy Squill. You've heard Squill Piggy
Yes,
Squill?
yes.
And there's a Banjo Boy. There's a famous banjo song. And there was kind of a deformed boy played the banjo. We wanted to hunt him down when I was there. So we found him. And during the whole trip of trying to hunt, which we did hunt him down, we found his name's Billy Redden, by the way. Not much interest to the story, but I was ringing Travis every day. And he was going to back down and back down and back down. All the time I was going there, I thought, this twat ain't going to meet us. But we got to Compton and he was kind of fishing around a bit. We said desperately, trying to beg him to come and meet us. And he said he'd meet us outside the hotel. We got it. And we were surrounded by black people. And this man, this big guy, his bodyguard turned up in the full KK outfit, which is quite embarrassing, isn't it, when you're standing in a hotel, which is run by sort of black Americans. So he turned up and we followed him to this place in the middle of nowhere. And sort of this hidden lanes of a dirt track. And we met this old guy, the leader of the Ku Klux Klan. Fucking unbelievable day. My imagery is I'm driving up a lane and there's this little man looking out the window. He was only about 4'5". He was the big leader of the Ku Klux Klan. I almost pissed myself laughing. You'd blown him, would have fallen over, but he was quite a formidable guy. He's the only guy that's pulled a gun on me. Well, I've had a gun pulled me by security guards, but not with any intention. So we were taken into his office where we questioned him about the bollocks that he talks. Interview went on and he put a gun on the table and he said, if any funny move, this gun's for my protection and I'm not frightened to use it. And anyway, as it goes, we spent the day with him. He talked about his shit. Talks how the whites rule the world and why they rule the road. Load of other old shit as well. And
why do you think he thinks that way? Do you think it was like a parent thing? Do you think he had like a bad experience
his father
with
was in,
someone?
His father was in the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, there you go.
His children in the Ku Klux Klan. He lives in a redneck area. And they're kind of born into it. He was intelligent. He's actually a priest as well. He had fear, black fear. I don't know why. He said that. And so, surprisingly enough, he showed us a list of people who was in the Klan: police officers, high government ministers, were all in the Klan. So it still is quite a powerful thing. He told us a story of someone stole the chainsaw of his neighbour, and they knew who it was. They just put a Ku Klux Klan business card through his door, and the chainsaw come back. So down in the redneck country, they shit themselves with them. But funny enough, and he had his wife and his daughter. It was a strange relationship. It was. I mean, his wife looked about 12, and his daughter looked older than his wife. Just a fucking strange situation. But I always remember his passing word to me as I left. And this is a fearsome man. Could I let him know what's happening in Downton Abbey? As you leave the door, excuse me, could you let me know the updates? You get Downton Abbey before us. I said, I haven't fucking watched the programme, mate. So Ku Klux Klan, love Downton Abbey and don't like polar bears.
Don't like polar bears?
No, I don't like polar bears. But I said, because they're on about ecology, they don't give a fuck. They think that, like the planet's dying and polar bears and ice melt. And he said to me, I don't give a fuck about ice melt. He said, don't even like polar bears. So the Ku Klux, it's official. KKK don't like polar bears. But the Sun, when I got home, the Sun newspaper offered me a fuckload of money to go back to take part in a hooded ceremony. They said to me, give you so much money. So I rang Travis Pierce. I thought, well, I'll have some of that money. I won't wear the hooded. I had this idea that I was going to burn it on the cross. I'd take this hood off and throw it on the cross that's burning. But I never got that far because I rang him And I said to him, look, I had a great time with you. Any chance to come back? And he said, if you come back and I ever see you in this area near me, I'm going to shoot you in the head. So, yeah, so I actually brag that the Kukaks can want to kill me.
Jesus, man. I don't
That's
know if
right.
you ever heard of. Have you ever heard of Daryl Davis?
No, who is he?
He's a great guy. He converts Ku Klux Klan members
Does he?
to like he's a black man and he befriends them and then they leave.
Wow.
He's an awesome. He even goes to the meetings with them as a friend.
Does he?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's amazing.
Is that not the Black Klansman? That was a
No.
film, The Black Klansman.
No. It's a different guy. But
You
There's
might
a
see this
black-
guy on Rojogan.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look him out.
yeah,
he's-
he's awesome.
So that was my time with the Klan. There was loads of stories go with it, but I'll be here all night. If I told you the stories, you'd probably get bored and fall asleep all
You
night.
start doing like a series.
So
You
much
think I'm
shit.
bored? You think I'm bored right now?
So much shit comes out. So so that's kind of what it is. So you can see what I'm saying. So it builds. I mean, if you watch a documentary, if you ever watch a documentary, you go, fuck, I'd love to go and experience that. But the kind of difference is I kind of think, I mean, if I see something I like it, I'll go and do it. With no fear.
Would you
Like
ever do something in
Mogadishu.
Ireland?
Sorry?
Would you ever do something in Ireland?
In Ireland?
Yeah, like you have the IRA, you have the UVF.
It's never.
Like it's not exactly dark, but it's still like
When I hear about it, it makes me sad. Kind of the IRA situation and the whole situation on Ireland, because I don't really have a right to an opinion. So if anybody asks me what's my opinion, I don't really have a right to an opinion. To really, it's.
what do you feel that
If
way?
you ask me what I really want, I'd like to see everybody in Ireland get on and the whole island be Ireland, but it can't, and I know that can because it'd be nice to see that.
Yeah.
Nice to see that. I don't think we have any right in any say in what happens in Ireland. I'd just like everybody to get on, have a big party, get
You know
pissed.
what, that is
get
actually
on.
really nice. Just want everyone to
Yeah.
get along.
Yeah,
Would be too bad.
best in the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seems strange that intelligent people in Ireland, I've seen loads of intelligent on both sides, they just seem to want to fuck each other up through history and time and religion and shit like that. Just shake hands, have a party, and all wear green. That'll do, won't it?
There you go. Yeah, but someone said this wear orange and say no.
But yeah, I mean, going to the Falls Road and things and Shanklin and seeing some. To me, it's not been a place I want to go. A lot of my friends have been there.
I get that.
Yeah, I mean, I've not even been to Ireland. I've got family there.
Oh.
I'm even a quarter Irish somewhere down the line, I believe. But all English people are, aren't they? A bit Irish.
There you go.
There you go then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Won't dwell too much on the Irish bit because it's meh. We
Yeah.
know ourselves. It's pretty boring here. We don't got the dark tourist spots. But I was wondering why you weren't in the UK episode or the Europe episode where you had like
Well, What, you mean the military makeup bag of
Yeah.
old shit? He come
Yeah.
over to me, right, David, on that. When they came, he come and interviewed me to see if I was right for Dark Tourist, and he just finished filming the reenactments in the UK. And he asked me what I think. I said, load of pricks. And to be honest, you know, like they have these fake wars, and I suppose in their head, these knobs are fighting, and because that's when, you know, they got this make-believe in their head. And I think they're absolutely nuts. I'd love to bring one of them, right, with me. You know, if you want to really see this make-believe war, yeah, come and have a look. Come and see what it is. And how can you dress up as a Nazi? How the fuck can you do that?
No, here's the thing. Some of them were German people coming over and dressing as Nazis. And like they'd get put in jail if they did that at home. And they said that, like, but what got me was they weren't calling them Nazis when they had the uniform on, because they're saying they just represent the uniform, like they're not actually that person. They were calling them Germans instead of Nazis in the reenactment. And I thought that was messed up.
Well, it's bollocks, isn't it? Because they're Nazis. That's
There's a
what they
big
were,
difference
yeah.
between a Nazi
A German.
and a normal German person
Yeah.
in the year 2019, 2020.
Yeah, exactly. When they're carrying out the reenactments, they were Nazis. So
Yeah, there you go.
cut the bollocks out.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
If you're listening, shut up.
Yeah, cut the bollocks out. Because I tell you what, that's why probably it is. I think because the conversations with Netflix and David at that period of time is I wanted to take him to war. David, we'd had a great trip in the Donbass in the Ukraine because it was the conflict was up and going then, and I wanted to take him out of his comfort zone, and he wanted to be honest. He had the bollocks to do it, but Netflix obviously wouldn't allow it because he was halfway through the series. But he's got some bollocks. He really has. He's going to make a great present. He's going to do some really shit hot stuff. He really is. I hope he is, because he's better than Louis Theroux in my eyes.
You see that thing, like the Manson guy who called him like the cheap Louis Theroux?
The cheap version Louis Theroux, yeah. He'd have laughed at that because he's got a great sense of humour, as David. He would have gone, he'd have thought that was funny. He'd have loved it. But anyway, my film will be beating that anyway. This, honestly, when it comes out, I'd love maybe you play this podcast again because the movie's going to be quite a big deal. It's got quite a lot of financing and it should be really got a book out around about the same time. So I might ask you guys in Ireland if you do well.
Yeah, if
throw this out.
Yeah, but when you're having a book coming out, give me a shout and I'd love to get it and give it a read. Interesting story.
I'll have a word with David and all, because me and David are still friends after this, ironically, and I don't think if there was a Netflix 2 come out, I was in it. I'd already been asked and approached by the production company to take part in Dark Tourist 2. So it does happen eventually, but fucking Zac Efron got some sort of shitty travel show and took the budget. But hopefully, if it does happen again, because it's such a popular show, I'll get a chance to do a couple. So if David watches this, and I would have asked David to come on, maybe. That would have been a good scoop for you, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That would have been something special.
Yeah.
But having you on is something special too, like...
Well, maybe in July, it might be a bit different when the film airs. It'll be hopefully quite a big deal.
Yeah.
Because there's some shit going on in this film.
Yeah.
Look forward to it.
So, I know you're a busy guy. You got to head off, but I want to finish on one last story. It blows my mind. You've chilled with cannibals before.
Oh, yeah, the cannibal story. And this is true. Nagaland in India. What a fucking place that is. It's it's the middle of the jungle of India. It's about these tribes called the Headhunters. Up until the 1990s, they'd have a war, these tribes inside Nagaland. And that 1990s is not too far. I know you're young. It's probably before you were born. But the 90s is not that long ago to us old fellas. And they were still cutting heads off. And we heard about them in a documentary. Once again, to say, fuck me, I've got to go and see these guys before they become a tourist spot. So we travelled and took days and days to see these guys. And we actually met with the king of the Headhunters. But the story they told us about the cannibalism, which is everybody kind of wants to hear, because they're a dying tribe now. We were introduced to the skulls, so we knew it was true. I mean, this guy opened up this hole, this king of the Headhunters, and there must have been 50, 60 skulls. And the story is, and this is how it worked, and it's a true story, 2 tribes would fight. They would take 2 guys hostage or prisoner or capture them or look for them to take capture to try and put fear. So the tribe would drag them back to the village and they would behead one of the guys. They'd cut his head off to enable them to get their tattoo from head to foot. Then they would cook him over a fire. And then the other guy that was left would give the option. If he ate his friend, who would eat him, they'd cut him up and he had the option to eat him. And if he ate him, he could go free. But if he didn't eat his fellow tribesman, they'd cut his head off too. And
fuck,
in the 90s. So when we're watching Footloose and shit like that on telly, there's a tribe of people lobbing heads off. In the 1990s, they found Christianity. And
they've been sound ever since. No,
they found Christians, and now somehow they now can't face the thoughts of returning to their God without being on opium. So they're spaced out on opium. Because one night when I was up there in a thing called a long hut, and there was like, I would have said 10, 15 of these tattooist murderers. Because the more tattoos, the more people they cut heads off of. And every guy we had was sitting around a fire, smoking crystal meths and telling stories, snorting opium. And so we're falling asleep, and we sleep in this long hut with 20 mass murderers. It was a sobering thought for a night's sleep. But thankfully they found their God. There you go. But next time I'll have to come on and tell you some of the other stories if you want me. When the film's out, I promise you I'll come back. Because like celebrities, and hopefully this film will elevate me, not to a celebrity, because I don't want to be one of them fuckers, although it'll give me a bit more of a name than even Netflix did, that I'll come back. And I promise you won't do any other podcasts, because you Irish fellas might do, and I promise you come back when that comes out and tell you a few more stories, because the film will generate a few more.
Yeah. I really appreciate that. Can you remind us all when it should be out?
It's going to be out. It'll be out. It's going to premiere in Hollywood, somewhere around Los Angeles back in June, July, and then it'll go on. It'll either be on Netflix. It's been bought by a broadcaster I can't tell you about, although they're a really big broadcaster. But you will see it in the UK on Netflix or I don't know, Amazon or. Something's had it, so it will be here sometime next year. But I'll tell you, boys, I'll give you first exclusive when it's out. How about that?
Fucking love
it.
Well, you know, that means a lot to me.
So, Andrew, we like you too, buddy.
Yeah, we're
thanks for your time.
That date in my calendar there. So, if anyone wants to check you out, they want to keep up with what you're doing, where can they find you?
They can find me anywhere. I mean, look out for me on Twitter. It's nice to have. As you can see, you contacted me on Twitter, and I'm not one of these twats that go. I'm not going to talk to people. I want to talk to these guys. They're good lads, and they've sent me a tweet, and I'll do that to anybody. Anybody wants to ask about what I do, I'm quite happy to talk about. Like I said, I want to tell stories. So look me out on Twitter. I'm on YouTube. You can find a few old videos, but most of the stuff now. So look out for me, and I'll announce something on Twitter, mate. But thank you for being interested. I really appreciate your time, boys.
Of course. Thank you, because you got the stories. We just wanted to hear them.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Good luck for the future. Speak to you shortly. Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Take it handy.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for watching. So, if you enjoyed that, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Maybe tell your grandma about the podcast.
Maybe.
Take it handy.
Good luck to you.